What is up, crew? Welcome to Seek the Edge with me, Kelsey Lensman, where our goal and mission is to challenge you outside of your comfort zone so you can tap into the God-given potential inside. And I will tell you firsthand, you have more within you than you could ever imagine. More growth, more love, more fulfillment. There's so much goodness that you don't realize that is within you. And as you stay disciplined, as you stay focused, as you continue to challenge yourself, you are going to become somebody that you never thought was possible. And I know it anecdotally from me, subjectively seeing it in myself, and also seeing so many others prove themselves right and wrong about things that they can become. So that's our goal here. And I am piggybacking this episode off of last week's episode, which last week's was 5 lessons I learned in 2025. 5 lessons I learned in 2025. And as I paused and reflected, there was incredible growth in 2025. Yes, some successes that you might have seen on social or whether it be personally or XYL, but also there were some mistakes I made in 2025. There were some things I wish I would have done differently. And I'm of the mindset that it's always hindsight 2020, right? That the version of you made the best decision that he or she could at that moment. However, how we grow is we learn from those decisions. We learn from those challenges or obstacles in our life. And the last episode was a lot about the lessons I've learned. The lessons that I took from personally, the lessons I took from also professionally. And what I'm going to share with you in this one's a lot more vulnerable, a lot more uncomfortable personally for me. But I have to live what I preach, where as you step into discomfort, that's where growth lies. And this one is about the 5 mistakes that I've made in 2025. I have always been an advocate and wanting to lead by authenticity. And my goal is to not overshare and to not ever overshare about things that sometimes just shouldn't be shared with the world, but is to be incredibly authentic and transparent as I am leading and building XYL, as I am growing personally, as I am continuing to take a step into the woman that I feel like I'm being called to become. Is I want to be transparent that it isn't just rainbows and sunshine 24/7. There's some hard lessons and some mistakes that I've made that, like I said in the last episode, it's our responsibility to take a moment to learn them, okay? Lessons aren't necessarily learned just because we think about them one time, but then repeat that behavior. Lessons are learned when we take a moment to pause, to be reflective and say, hey, what would I have done differently? Or now knowing what I know, what other decisions should I make? Should I have made? What other action should I have taken? But is then to actually put that into action and make that differently going forward. So let's dive in here. Let's dive into the 5 mistakes that I made in 2025. Is number 1, if you know me personally, you're like, yeah, this is true. Number 1, I overcommitted and it led to dropped balls. I overcommitted and it led to dropped balls. And this year was incredible, but it was also very packed. We had 10 plus events across multiple states, venue launches, new ideas, getting put into action, continue with this podcast, personally growing, hosting a small group. Like there was a beautiful, my life was beautiful this year and it was full. And I love this quality about myself, but it also can be a double-edged sword is I think that, oh yeah, we can do it. Yeah, we're cool. And I don't try to overcommit, but I very intentionally I unintentionally do overcommit. And by that, I've realized that we have dropped and I have dropped some balls. For example, some of the coaching clients that I have not given them the energy that I feel like they deserve and the time that they deserve. And so that's going to be a lot of growth going into next year, is making our coaching program the best that it can be, that I am incredibly proud of the level of intention that we give it. Number 2, some events weren't communicated as clearly or executed as tightly as they should have been. There were some events that I should have made different decisions on and that weren't necessarily crazy successful, not just by the number, but by the experience that I wanted the athletes to have. And that was 1000% due to me overcommitting and not being able to give enough time and effort and energy that I wanted to there. And honestly, too, there were certain parts where I just stretched myself so thin that there was such a big level of inconsistency and a lack of execution on my part that drove me crazy. And just like I tell my coaching clients is sometimes you have to lean into the messiness of it. And it's not necessarily about doing more, but doing less better. And that's what I learned a lot this year. And I knew this lesson before, but then you have to understand how you operate to say, okay, Kels, you have a tendency to do this. You have a tendency to think that you can not necessarily do it all because it's not out of ego. I don't think that I know the most or that I'm the best, but you have a tendency to think your capacity is a lot more than what it is. So make decisions not based on what you think is possible there, but make decisions based on what you can truly commit to. And so, like I said, it wasn't necessarily a lack of care, but it was a lack of awareness and margin on my end. So the lesson that I'm gleaning from my first mistake of really overcommitting was capacity is created, not wished for. So if you don't protect your margins, meaning if you don't understand what sometimes needs to be offloaded for you to have the time, effort, and energy and space to give to it, then you're going to be on this hamster wheel and you're going to feel like you're always behind a little bit. Okay. Do less better and be effective and efficient. Don't just try to add everything onto your plate. Oh, mistake number two. Let's expose it. Mistake number two is I avoided holding the standard and communicating expectations directly. Like I said, this just stems back for me, and I'm very aware of where it comes from, of a people-pleasing tendency of avoiding the conflict or avoiding the hard conversation or avoiding a little bit of discomfort or, hey, if this doesn't happen, then we can't do this, X, Y, and Z. And instead of me holding the standard, say, hey, this is what we shared ahead of time. This is what it is, and here's the next steps of it. I notice myself at times, not all the time, but at times avoiding it. And that avoidance gets you nowhere. And so because of that, I know that leadership requires clarity. Leadership is not have to be negative or mean, but it requires a very deeply rooted and clear leader. And that's what I am excited to become. That's what I'm excited to continue to grow in. But I also know is going to lean into some discomfort there. And so clarity is not only good for us, it's good for everybody that we work with. It's good for everybody, whether it be clients, contractors, gyms that we work with. Clarity is incredibly important. That gray area is not helpful. Not only not for us, not for anybody that is on the other receiving side. And so that's one thing that I am leading into next year with is I'm going to be incredibly clear on the expectations and standards on both of our sides. I'm going to be incredibly clear that, hey, if XYZ isn't hit, then this is the action that we necessarily need to take to benefit both parties. Clarity is king here. And this requires me to grow. This requires me to be a better leader. And this requires me to expand into areas that sometimes, like I said, elicit a little bit of discomfort and elicit a little bit of growth in this area. So lesson in this one is if you avoid hard conversations now, you will pay for it later. Okay. Leading means loving people well enough to lead them to the truth and tell them the truth. Woo. Number 3, this ties very similar to number 1, is I tried to do too much myself instead of asking for help. And I am very grateful. One thing I was reflecting on for 25 is I feel like God has put some amazing people in my life, amazing family. And like, there's so many great humans that I don't use them enough. I do not lean on them enough. And it's not coming from an ego. It's not coming from me thinking I know most or more. It's not coming from me thinking I have it all figured out, because I'm very aware that I don't. But it's just coming from that I'm not used to asking for help. It's just a behavior that I'm just not used to. And I think it has developed a quality in me of like figuring it out, which comes to the grittiness, and I very much appreciate. But also there's a time where asking for help can be the absolute best thing that you do, and also very impactful for other people getting asked to help. There's a few people in my life that like, Kelsey, I want to help you. I want to. And sometimes I don't even think about it, or I don't even know what help to ask for because I'm just so ingrained to figuring it out. And this definitely led to me trying to do too much. It led to me missing out on amazing ideas from other people when I didn't even ask it. And they're like, hey, have you thought about this? I'm like, that would have been such a good idea. And that would have been such a amazing idea if I just would have asked of what your thoughts were for that. Exhausting myself in ways that honestly were not necessary, and slowing down growth that for sure could have been accelerated because I have other thoughts and other ideas than just mine. And like I said, this does not come from an egoic place. This does not come from a place of me thinking that I have it all figured out. It just comes from a place of I'm not used to this pattern. I'm not used to asking for it. I'm not used to that being a response of mine. And so just as much as I want to continue to lean into figuring it out and having that quality developed, me leaning into asking for help and seeking guidance and knowledge from those around me, that's something that I'm going to really lean into for this upcoming year. So lesson number 3 is you can be strong and still need support. Asking for help isn't a weakness, it's wisdom. And I learned this full-heartedly in my fitness journey. As I asked for help in my fitness journey and hired a coach, it was like I condensed time and I 180'd the progress I could have had in way shorter of a time than if I was just going to try to continue to muscle it myself. So I realized this, that 1, it's not a close to a weakness, but 2, how much progress can happen if you just get out of your own dang way. And so that's what I want to share with you. And if you're similar to me, where you're a go-getter, you like to figure things out, that's how you've operated. Sometimes your superpower can also be your greatest weakness, and lean into developing that muscle of asking for help and seeking it. And you will be amazed about where that can lead you. Number 4, this was a rude awakening for me, is I neglected my health while pouring into everything else. There's so much irony in this because I am a fitness coach, meaning I help people in nutrition and fitness, and I've been on bodybuilding stages and powerlifting platforms. Like I've been very grateful. God's given me a great guidance and coaches in my life, but I've done a lot in the fitness world, whether it be specific body composition goals, whether it be strength goals. And I can have a tendency to put myself on the back burner as a result of it, or not necessarily even sometimes that. It's me just not being intentional with myself as much as I need to be. And I had a rude awakening earlier this summer is I got some, end of the springtime, is I got some labs back and I was like, oh, those are my numbers? That's my glucose number? That's my inflammation number? And I'm not a very unhealthy person. I get enough sleep. I fuel my body still pretty well, even if it's not very specific or crazy intentional. Like I still have healthy habits, but it opened my eyes to how much I need to prioritize this again, how much I need to really focus in on things that benefit my internal, which will allow me to be a better, more effective person externally, whether it be coaching or as a friend or whatever that be. My inflammation was up, my liver, and like it was just like I should not be at this state. And so it all pointed to the same reality where it was too much on the system and not enough just me taking care of myself better. So just like so many women that we specifically serve, this is a very common thing where you just kind of give. You put yourself on the back burner and you give out of either responsibilities that you have or things that you do. And you do have more control than you think. You have more time than you think. And I know for me, I even had that little voice of like, what can you do? There's so much going on. It's just an excuse that I'm making. And I say this lovingly, and I don't have kids, so I'm very aware of that. But you have a lot more control than you think. You have a lot more ability to do the things that are good for you than you think. And instead of trying to make justifications why you can't, make reasons for why you can. make opportunities for why you can. And I love the quote of, if you have a limitation, or if you say that you have a limitation, you get to keep it, right? Oh, I just don't have time for myself. I get to keep that belief. I get to keep that then reciprocal repercussions as a result of it. Whatever excuse that I make, I get to keep that excuse. And I don't want that, right? So I had to shift a little bit of my priorities. This is where last week's topic talks about the 1 degree shift. I had to really lean into those 1 degree shifts and realize my lab work is not going to change 180 overnight. It's going to come from me sleeping a little bit longer. It's going to come from consistently fueling enough. It's going to come from my prioritization of time and allowing myself to take time for myself to do better for myself. And so seeing that data was definitely a reality check. And it didn't have to be an either or scenario. I didn't have to build my business or have really good health. I didn't have to be successful here or sacrifice this. It can be an and game. And so I'm breaking that belief as we speak. Is I can be incredibly excited and driven about what we're doing and be someone that takes incredibly good care of myself. I can serve deeply without abandoning myself, meaning without putting myself on the back burner. I can have both. Is it going to take incredibly intentional priorities? For sure. Is it going to take incredibly getting clear on what I need to fill my time with? For sure. And this was the lesson that I gleaned, is if you don't choose your health, your life will tell you to choose it. That was something that, to be the best version of you requires the healthiest version of you. To be the person that leads the thing that you want to lead, whether that be a family, whether that be a mission, whether that be just become the best person that you can, it's going to require you to take care of you incredibly well. And so don't learn from me the hard way of getting those lab results back and opening your eyes to, oh, you got to take better care of yourself, Kels. Lean into that now. Take care of yourself now, because as you compound those 1 degree shifts, that's going to change. And last, but definitely not least, mistake number 5 is I underestimated the power of prayer. Oh, I underestimated it. Not that I ever thought that prayer was just like these thoughts or these words that I say that just like poof, go out into the air and nothing happens as a result. But I had a very big realization towards this summertime. Is I was trying to find a charity for us to partner with for our Women Expanding Limits event here in Columbus. And I was pursuing all these different routes, communicating with these charities, and it just felt like I kept coming up against a wall. I kept coming up against something happens, okay, well, that's out. Routes that I thought would be great for them and for us, and then nothing ever transpiring about it. And I'm like, why is this way more difficult than I feel like it needs to be? And so finally, I was like, Kels, all right, you say it. You want to pray more, pray more. And so I took a moment and I paused and I got quiet, and Captain was in my lap, my dog. And I said, God, I was like, I want you to show me what charity you want me to partner with and us to partner with for our Women Expanding Limits event this year. You show me, okay? I'm done trying to figure it out on myself. I want you to show me what this is. And I will pre-frame this of, God is not a genie in a bottle. It's not just pray to hope to receive anything. But this was a wow moment for me. I then went into my office and I opened up my email. And 5 minutes prior, the exact time that I was praying, I got an email from a decently close friend. Like I don't talk to him about who we're partnering with or what challenges I'm having often. Random email from an acquaintance, and he connected me and he's like, hey, I don't know why I'm sending you this email, but I feel like you guys both would benefit from each other. And it was a connection to Her Song, which is a subset of the Tim Tebow Foundation. And they help provide local resources for women that were sex trafficked. And that's exactly the route that I was trying to figure out beforehand and to partner with. And so I shot them an email like, oh, I appreciate it. And we ended up connecting. And right now we're even raising funds to get a treadmill for them for Christmas. And it was just such a beautiful alignment and partnership or support for them that I was trying to muscle through for months beforehand. And if I would have only got out of my way and asked him, who do you want me to partner with? It was like, poof, that email came. And so I heavily underestimated the power of prayer. And like I said, this is not to say if you have a problem, pray and then expect an immediate response, right? He's not a genie in a bottle. We should not approach it to that. But what I have done so much, especially refocusing for 2026, I have prayed. I have paused. I have asked for his guidance for 2026. I have asked for what areas he wants to see growth. And guess what? I have heard. I have had new ideas. I have had new focuses. I've had clarity. And so what I'm taking for me into that next part is prayer is not a backup plan. It is about clarity. It is about alignment. It is about seeking what his will is for it. And I will tell you this firsthand, his will is always better than our will. His plan is always better than ours, even if we can't see it there. And so prayer is not passive. It is powerful. Don't wait until you're exhausted to ask God to lead. Oh, that's so true. That's so true. All right, crew. Those are the 5 mistakes of 2025. I overcommitted. It led to balls dropped. Number 2, I avoided holding the standard and communicating effectively and expectations directly. Mistake number 3, I tried to do too much myself instead of asking for help. Number 4, I neglected my health while really trying to pour into everything else, and I just wasn't intentional about it. And then number 5, I underestimated the power of prayer. Whew. And as I look back on these mistakes, there's no frustration attached to it. Do I wish I would have done some things differently? Yeah, potentially, right? We're human. But where the growth lies is, what am I changing as a result? What am I taking from these mistakes without emotion? I'm not mad. I'm not frustrated. I'm not angry. I'm not shaming myself for them. But what am I actually taking going forward with that? What lessons am I learning? What actions am I changing as a result and doing differently for it? So, like I said, not that I want you to think about the bad or the challenging of 2025, but if we're really reflective about them, even the hard moments, even the failures, even the mistakes are continually, sometimes even more, guiding you into shifts that you get to make for your life, are guiding you into new ways to do things, are guiding you into, oh, that didn't work, so what is going to work for that? And that is just as impactful as the successes, or as what you think are successes there, okay? So learn from me the hard way. I'll continue to be very open and honest about things that I've learned, things that I'm also changing as I'm leading better, as I'm just continually growing as a person, and also excited to see what 2026 has for us going forward too. All right, crew. Have an amazing rest of your day. I'll see you all soon. Love you.